How you going, guys? Welcome to HobbyKing. Today we have the product profile for the Durafly Canadian Edition Vampire. So guys, we're going to unbox it, we'll pull all the pieces out, we'll put it together, and then we'll take it for a fly. So here you can see we've got all the parts laid out on the table. We've got the fuselage, the two booms, the horizontal stabilizer, some Y leads, a few little bits of hardware, the canopy, a cool looking pilot, and the left and right main wing. And here is the manual. And let's get into the build. So guys, we're continuing on with the build. You can see here that some of the little micro assemblies have been done. Now, if you're not familiar with the Vampire, there's a couple of things that we'd like you to do just to make sure everything's okay. Firstly, you want to flex all your control surfaces. Here we go. Just to make sure that there's less resistance on the servos, so that helps out, a bit more freedom with the control surfaces. Also, there's a few little attachments, little tricks that you can do. Basically, make sure that you've attached all your wiring and then check it out with a servo tester just to make sure that all your servos are working freely and everything's working well. Same with the retracts. On the nose as well, you've got the steerable nose wheel. You want to make sure, just get a servo tester and just run through to make sure everything's working well and how you want it. So if any fine adjustments you can do now before you start to glue it together. So I'll just get back to the build, and if anything else comes up, I'll talk to you soon. So guys, another little trick, another little tip here with the Vampire. You can see here there's a little bit of paint on top of the surface here. Now that paint needs to be removed, because if you don't remove it and you simply just glue paint on paint, then you're going to have a weak joint. And what happens then is the booms fall off the aeroplane and the aeroplane cartwheels into the ground. We don't want that. So what you need to do is to remove some of that paint. You can use a little bit of sandpaper like I'm going to do, or a knife just to give you that nice rough edge. That gives you a mechanical bond when you super glue or epoxy your wing joint together. Otherwise, it'll be a disaster. Anyway guys, on with the build. Guys, now I've built a fair few of these Vampires, and I've learnt from my own mistakes that you have to glue these parts individually and then slowly put it all together. Even though it's a small part count sort of build, you still need to do it correctly. So make sure you glue it individually as per the manual. It's all in there, guys. Let's continue with the build and I'll see you soon. So guys, continuing on with the build, I'll just get this nose wheel out of the way. And as you can see here, if Matt just focuses in on the inside of the wing joint, we've roughed it up and we've scored it, and we've actually taken away the paint. That way when you glue it, it becomes a mechanical and a chemical joint to hold the wings together. So guys, we've waited a couple of hours. We've got the booms, they're now ready and they're set. We're going to attach them to the fuselage, and then we'll continue on with the build. See you soon. So guys, carrying on with the build, we've nearly finished. All I need to do is to plug it into my orange receiver and transmitter, set up all the electronics and balance the Vampire, and then I'll see you in a couple of minutes. So guys, the build's now complete for the 1100mm Durafly Vampire Canadian Edition. We've done a few little modifications, as in the carbon in the booms and the carbon in the elevator surface to give that extra strength and tighten up the rear end. It is 1100mm in wingspan. It is just over 1 kilo in weight, or 1,000 grams. It has the 70mm fan, which runs on a 4S with a 60 amp ESC. We've now integrated the BEC, pre-installed metal trunnion retracts, which give you that extra strength when you're landing. As you can see, we've used an acrylic paint, which really brings out the silver. It's sort of a lot more realistic than the original silver that you would have seen on the first Vampire. Now, with the red flashes on the wings and the aggressive nose, this aeroplane will really stand out in the air and give you superb orientation. All right guys, let's get it up in the air and see how it goes. So guys, if you haven't flown the Vampire before, it's very predictable and stable EDF. It is a fantastic introduction into EDF flight in RC. Very light wind loading, and yet has all the looks and grace of a classic fighter. And we'll take it up into the wind here and we'll do a bit of a stall. So what we'll do is we'll get some altitude, a couple of mistakes high, a cut the power off and just let it fall into the wind. Introduce the elevator, and you can see the stall is very benign. It hardly bites, and in fact, if I pull back on the elevator now all the way, it'll just tip a little bit and it's very easily recovered. Speed isn't an issue with the 70mm fan running a 4S. It's fantastic vertical as well for a lightweight EDF. Very manoeuvrable with the big ailerons and the elevator on the back of those booms that have now been reinforced with the carbon. In the original version of the Vampire, guys would modify these booms to put their own carbon in. This has all been done for you now. And guys, as you can see with that authentic colour scheme, it really stands out for orientation when you're flying. Even up against the blue sky or up against cloud, it's fantastic. We'll come in and do a roll down the middle of the strip here, and we'll pull up and do a roll. Like I said, very manoeuvrable, and only a little bit of aileron there just to get you that roll. I've got it set up as per the manual. And you can see it's a very stable flight. And we'll pull up here and do a loop. Cut the power and let it come back around again. Nice and easy, guys. So guys, it's a little bit windy, it's a bit of a choppy breeze up there, but it's still penetrating very nicely, as you can see. Now I'm flying this with a 2200 graphene on a 4-cell, so it's very light and very nimble in this setup. So low speed is also very forgiving with that light wing loading. As you can see here, like I'm just going to turn it in front of Mike here, and very easy, very predictable flyer. You can really push the envelope with a slow speed stall and everything else, because you know that it's going to just float and float and float. Now when you land the Vampire, you need a little bit of throttle, and because it floats like you wouldn't believe. And we're going to go all the way down the runway down here. It's all good, we've got plenty of room. Just fantastic. Guys, that wraps up the profile for the new Durafly Vampire in the Canadian scheme. So guys, the link for the product and all the spare parts are down below. I'm Stephen from HobbyKing, and I'll see you next time.